Friends, the Durham probe and the Steele dossier are very much back in the news in recent days, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, there was an indictment and an arrest of Igor Danchenko. This is only the second indictment so far from Durham. A couple of things going on here. Number one is that the circle seems to be getting tighter around Hillary Clinton regarding her malfeasance in the Steele dossier. And the second aspect here is, while Sullivan is not accused yet of any wrongdoing, we now have a very senior administration official who is deeply, at least, involved in these indictments. So joining me now to discuss all of this, we need to bring in an attorney, because I'm not one. So I'm very glad that we're bringing in an attorney and Turning Point USA contributor, Miss Erin Elmore. Erin, before we get into some of the specifics here, I really want to ask you, and this isn't really a legal question, it's much more of just a strategy and political question. Look, a lot of folks on the right have put so much faith and so much hope, quite frankly, in Durham. I've always been pretty cynical about this, quite honestly. I just think the DOJ never really goes after its own. This has taken forever. Who's right? The people that are hopeful that there's going to be real justice, or am I right in my cynicism that this is much ado about nothing?
I hate to agree with you on this, but I think you're completely right here, Steve. This does feel like a pound of flesh. Okay, there's a little bit of vindication for conservatives, but the problem is it's too little, too late. When we prosecute someone or go after someone or even implicate the Clintons here, what is really going to happen? Is there going to be any sort of payback? Is there going to be any change going forward? And unfortunately, it just doesn't feel that way. This is no longer socially or culturally relevant. The political climate has completely evolved and changed. So although, yes, there seems to be that feeling of just desserts and coming to terms with things, but is it going to have an impact socially or legally? And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be. Those that fall will fall on the sword for the Clintons, and nothing is going to change politically, especially when we have Joe Biden in the White House and the mainstream media completely serving as an arm of the Democrat Party.
Sure. Of course. Well, and listen, it would be wonderful if you and I are both wrong about this, obviously, all right? It would be wonderful if some very senior people that the American public has actually heard of, end up in cuffs, because they belong in cuffs. And I'm talking about people like Comey and McCabe and Clapper and Brennan, who are much more of household names. Let's face it, most people have never even heard of Sussman or Danchenko. So it is still possible, but again, I wouldn't be betting the milk money on it from here. But you mentioned the media, and I want to ask you about that aspect also of this case, because what we are seeing more and more as the onion is peeled back regarding the Steele dossier is that we are seeing that the media, which effectively is the public relations arm of the DNC and was of the Hillary Clinton campaign, we see that so many of their lies, so much of their promotion is now being revealed as completely false, and yet we don't seem to see any kind of accountability. Even the Washington Post, and I very rarely praise the Washington Post, but even the Washington Post, their media critic pointed to this, and here's what he had to say. The Danchenko indictment doubles as a critique of several media outlets that covered Steele's reports in 2016 and after its publication by BuzzFeed in January 2017.
Shockingly fair, and from the maker of the Pinocchios after all of this. But there are two standards of journalistic justice. If you are on the left, you can get away with absolutely anything with no accountability. Nothing will happen to you. If you are a conservative or on the right, you will be nailed to a cross and vilified and canceled and persecuted and prosecuted for anything that you say or do. You can do the exact same thing and have a completely different result. And I do think that this needs to change in America, because we are becoming almost like a third world socialist country. And for the Washington Post to actually speak up, it's a good sign for us.
Sure. No, and listen, and kudos to them. I'll give credit where it's due, and good for them to speak up. Now, let me ask you about a political solution here rather than a legal one, because, again, I just don't see high-profile prosecutions unfolding. Would love to be wrong on that score. However, I do believe that a year from now, the Republicans are going to sweep to massive victories on Capitol Hill. I really do, in both the House and the Senate. Now, there'll be the political will to do that, or has there just been simply too much water under the bridge between 2016 and then 2023?
I think that's the fear, Steve, is that so many problems are accumulating in this country, whether it's with the mask mandates or vaccine mandates or with illegal immigration. Our problems, both legally, socially, and politically, are piling up by the minute, by the hour. We saw with the housing situation with, you couldn't evict people, the eviction moratoriums, the government just decided to do whatever they want. So I do believe that these issues are piling up so high and so quickly. The further we go back in time, it's less likely that we can dig ourselves out of these problems. So truly, as much as we'd like to go back and see justice for all, I think it's going to be justice for those that are prioritized first to save America. America, because 3 more years under Joe Biden is an extremely long time. And to get us to the midterms, as you indicated, is also a great amount of time. And we know that we just had a big win in Virginia. We had other wins around the country as well surrounding that, and almost took New Jersey. Still haven't, conceded on that one. So I do believe that the Republicans and the conservatives are winning the culture war. So these leftists are peeling it back a little bit. Even here in Palm Beach County, Florida, where I live, where they were in a red state but living blue state laws, now they're saying, okay, no more mask mandates. We're going to push back on these vaccines. So everyone is realizing that the conservatives are winning the culture war, whether it's critical race theory, vaccines, border security, all of the above. And we have such a pile to dig ourselves out of. Pray for the people in power in 2022, 23, and 24 on the conservative side who are going to save this great nation.
Oh, you're exactly right. And by the way, speaking of your state, they're doing something in the Florida legislature, which I have been pounding the table about on this show, and that is they're convening a special session to protect the citizens of Florida from the overreach of the federal vaccine mandates, particularly as they relate to employment. I love that. Tennessee's doing it too. Every red state in America needs to do that. We don't have to wait for the 2022 elections to take action. These red states can do a lot right now to protect citizens. Erin Elmore, I'm jealous of you for living in such a wonderful red state. And thank you so much for joining tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.